Greetings, Dog Lane Quaker and Mamser Ass Clouds across the MadDog Plant here in the open air, coast to coast nut house we call Zog Babylon, the third and the final. But I'm talking to, well, mainly the people who live in Missouri and who vote. And the ones, really, the poor ones who don't vote because you've been stripped of your, quote, legal rights to vote or do much of anything here, which is pretty well, part of the regime criminal plan. See, they want to go ahead and murder you, be it through the Zog virus, which they created, or the clot shot, or whatever. But, thankfully, the ones who took the clot shot are the stupidest people, who essentially serve Satan, just like their government, so-called democracy serves Satan. So anyway, this is MadDog Musings of the 21st of August 2022. I'm asking for your write-in vote because I'm a write-in candidate, and I'm asking for a few Zog bucks here. I really am not living a really, high lifestyle here by myself. But pretty much, you still see around here, you still see the lie media going ahead and honoring these stupid pigs who screwed with the wrong homeless crackhead, what is his name here, Anthony Felix. Well, Anthony Felix was a 40-year-old, he looked like a crackhead, maybe he wasn't here, but he was homeless here. And he had a lot of things going on with the lower class. Probably drug use, probably low impulse control. He'd be a higher functioning nut if he was up at Fulton here to be, if he'd survived his little, freedom page. Because he was a felon and that he was pulled over, and pretty well the young pig went ahead and was trying to get this woman who managed this upscale female boutique store in Joplin here. We have such things. And she really wouldn't press charges, so he decided to go ahead and say, well, it's okay, I'll go ahead and I'll arrest him for disturbing the peace. Well, there was no peace to disturb, just harassment. How about disturbing the police harassment? The problem is that Zog really is, the Zionist-occupied government, and your local Zogs here, be it, the Missouri Zog, the Newton County Zog, be it the Granby Zog. They all, as soon as they can, they go ahead and get a police department to go ahead and go after, people like me here. The Granby Zog is used to keep me from ridiculing these evil people. Now, Crooked Evil Ira is determined to do whatever the hell he wants to do. Same with T-Rampage. Now, Granby has been in trouble since they closed the mines in the late 50s, early 60s. And then they lost the high school. So what was left was just simply a whole bunch of old houses, which was cheap to live, to which people would go ahead and drive to Neosho, or over to Monad, or up to Carthage, or up further to Joplin. That's pretty well what it was. And the answer is that you end up having these old, be it trailers or old houses built in the 20s and 30s. Maybe, there wasn't that many built in Granby because it was understood that if you wanted to go ahead and build a high-class house here, you'd do it better outside of Granby. You have it inside the city limits of Granby. What the thieving, idiotic city council and a bunch of idiots here and thieves that they have working for them. You're going to go ahead and take a hit. You're going to take a hit here. A house worth maybe, let's say it's worth $100,000 here. It's not going to be really worth even 60,000 here. Now it'll be assessed pretty high, but it's not going to be worth it. That's the higher taxes than the rest here. And pretty well they've tried to convince the Granby inbreds to pull themselves up by their bootstraps here through taxation. And what they end up getting is that they end up getting, Crooked Ira and, T Rampage, going ahead and stealing the bootstraps here. That's sort of like what happens. They're getting money for the COVID, and rather than spend it, the last thing was a scam too far. The stormwater sewer plant here. Pretty well, Sprinkle went ahead and dug, essentially a place to go ahead and store the water as long as it wasn't over an inch. Now what they've done is they've gone ahead and create two more as long as it's not over 2 inches. But they'll go back to doing the same thing for 3 inches, 4 inches, because they'll just simply divert the stormwater, right, into the, Gum Springs and then into Shoal Creek, like they've done like it's been happening since you had, stormwater here. All it is here is just going ahead and getting, the reason they don't fix the pipes here is that they're waiting for a contract in which they'll go ahead and get a whole bunch of kickbacks and they'll go into their pocket. And then hopefully, like Rick McCully is stealing up here, you've got enough to go ahead and, move away from Granby. I mean, shoot, most of the council critters who've been there, they're proud of the fact that they moved out of that Granby shithole. And that's why I wanted to annex my properties here. But what you have is you have everywhere, you have all these here towns which are dying because there's nothing in it for their children. So they'll go, when I was young, a man would promise to go to Kansas City or Dallas. Now Dallas and Kansas City are quite shitholes here, so usually they go to Springfield. And where they end up having far more professional government. And, some go to the Neosho. Have a lot more laws here. But what they're trying to do is they're pretending to try to polish the turd so they can go ahead and sell out and get kickbacks. And the reason you end up having the police force is to prevent me from ridiculing the crap out of them. Of course, they allotted money for a video camera, a couple months ago. I don't see them putting it in because they have no intention of putting it in. They just want to go ahead and use their 4,956 Split Enterprises security cam with 3% dynamic range and 4K video. Totally unsuited for streaming. If they bought a $30 Logitech, snapped it up here, they could have gone ahead and, live stream. They don't want to do that, folks. They just want to go ahead and steal from 99% of the collection of, pretty well down and outers here who live in Granby. Folks, I ended up moving into a neighborhood full of old people, and I bought their houses cheap because their children and grandchildren did not want to live in Granby, and they didn't want to pay taxes in Granby. So I went ahead and bought it cheap. Bought first place for $3,000 in 1987. That was a quiet deal even in 1987. So anyway, that is the situation I'm having in here, and pretty well. The police are the same reason that Saddam Hussein had police. Same reason as that Chancellor Adolf Hitler had police. Effective, efficient ones. It's the same way Zog has police. The FBI. It's to stifle political secret police here, who pretty well were not mentioned in constipation, but slipped in. You end up having a crazed homosexual mongrel. Who was a homosexual mongrel like Brian Reel or like J. Edgar Hoover. Vicious here, under the color law, goes ahead and, puts a thumb on white people and their freedom. Same way as the crazed, millennial war criminal Abraham Lincoln. And they got rid of, some crazy, fat white bitch named Liz Cheney, who's the daughter of a war criminal, and, she doesn't have the honesty to just simply say that I'm a conservative Democrat. That's what she could have run as. She lost as a Republican. People in Wyoming repudiated her. But no, this is exactly what you end up having. And the latest, finally, they're going to go ahead and talk about a water plant. It's going to cost a minimum of $5 million, maybe it's the highest $15 million. And all it's going to do is pretty well give a new drinking straw to an aquifer polluted by sewage and sulfur. Now, the sulfur has always been there. Well number 1 is pretty well done away with because it had just so much sulfur in it and sewage. But it was at a different level here, different level. So they closed it. They opened up well number 2 in 1980. And what happens is that's on, City Tower. That is outside the mining operations here. That's outside, the mine shafts getting a quick leak to the aquifer here. So what happens, well number 2 has relatively pure water. But then Granby grew, so they put well number 3, which also has sulfur. And the 2014-2015 water report pretty well said, guess what here? You need to build a water tower for $750,000 so that we can keep the water from well number 3 distinct until we need it. And for in the summer, for watering gardens, something like that here, you'll have some sulfur taste, but no big deal. Instead of just simply pumping well number 3 water to well number 2, and it's a water tower over on Tower Road, west of Granby. Well, they allotted $220,000 to fix the pipes. Even by then, it was becoming a problem. But it would cost $1 million, a bond for $1 million. But the only way to go ahead and get free money would be to raise the water rates by 229%, essentially more than double them. And they didn't want to go ahead and put that to a vote. So what they did is they just raised it up by 100%, bought a $30 smoker and bought a $5 camera, kept the damn things in, under the watch of Jim Channel. See, Jim Channel, his father was pretty well just ripping Granby off here, and Jim Channel's even more so, along with cooking, Fat Lana here. Granby is just simply nothing more than a criminal racket organization. Barry Flint decided to, and they bitch about, how there's no housing in Granby. Well, there used to be plenty of housing in Granby. There was all the old, decrepit houses. But people would go ahead, a young family who didn't want to live in Granby, starting out, would buy a single wide for $1,000 or $2,000, spend about another $500 to $1,000 moving it in, put it top of their lot, go ahead and hook up to the sewer and the water, which was nearby. And then what they would do is that they would simply, and the reason Granby spread out is that people wanted the Granby water. So here they were having about 10-acre, 12-acre farms, sort of like this place here. Here in East Granby. But what they would do is that I'd point out to them, you're just getting sewer and sulfur water, and you'd end up having somebody who lived west of Granby. Now Granby, west of Granby, pretty well the people there, they go to town, they go to whatever here in the Osho, because it's close by. Here, what used to be, Granby used to be the Queen City of eastern Newton County. Not no more. People who live east of Granby, they live east of Granby for a reason. They do not want to be part of Granby at all. Not at all. They know all about Granby. They know all about Granby corruption. Hell, some of them are their relatives. So what happens, you can go ahead and remain a friend, and you can be a whole lot more reasonable than I have been since I've, living here. Since early 2020. But I still have property in Granby, and I have to go there every so often to pick up my mail and do a number of things like that. So what you have is that you end up having, essentially corrupt local, Crooked Ira and the rest here. Their latest great thing was to take 42,000 and promise them their 42,000, in the second batch to Barry Flint. Now Barry Flint don't want you, poor people living in a trailer of their own. Now he pretends to be a godly man. No. Him like Crooked Ira and, regrettably Doreen Klaus and Gomer Goober Carell and Bale Chitrell. They're just simply thieving Zogbots. They're just simply thieves who want to go ahead and pretend they're oh so righteous. And then not only do they not help the poor, thus, just like my half-beard says here, they oppress the sheep and wheat, and they let the goats and the tares run wild, and they're not worried about the end of their regime or, Judgment Day, with a hair going ahead and being burnt out here, which means that they and their wicked families here. And Yahweh's law, a regime criminal's family was responsible for whatever that regime criminal did unless they make a big point of disavowing themselves and going at variance with their evil fathers and mothers and whatever. But anyway, they're just simply bail priests. Crooked Ira, T-Rampage, just a drunken, bumbling idiot who does whatever. Oh, by the way, I went ahead and found out that what happened with T-Rampage, wasn't that just Crooked Ira went ahead and brought him in, but he went ahead and told Jim Channel to screw off here when Jim Channel wanted him to work for that $35,000, $40,000 he got. And you end up having Channel, he's in with, he's their little press agent here. So pretty well what you have in Granby is a microcosm of what you have throughout Zog. And I went to the Newton County Conservative thing. I asked Joe Carter, who just lives outside. I end up asking the new county commissioner, presiding commissioner, and Alan Page was not there. Alan Page knows he screwed up, and Bale Rebolt, he's on the way out. He's, sort of like Runt Blunt. He's gone ahead and taken whatever the hell he got here, and he's going to run off with his. But Alan Page will still be back here, and Alan Page got a rebuke from the county. How dare you go ahead, and have all these idiot lawsuits? But you had some idiots here. They were supporting that monster, Kevin Lee Selby, and Grizz Grinder Greggy Stremmel, essentially two criminals, running a totally corrupt law system to where my grandchildren were bought and sold. Folks, you want to go ahead, you really ought to call them Republipedos. Because what they do, and they're you go ahead and see it in advertising here. They got 450 to 500 children in Jasper County alone, which essentially weren't young enough or cute enough or smart enough to be sold to rich perverts and lesbians or whatever. No, they weren't rich. The lesbians, what they can do, they can go ahead and find a manly man to go ahead and screw them, and they can go ahead and take the pokery here, one way or the other here. The lesbians can produce children here if they go ahead and get a manly man to go ahead and come. But you'd be stupid to go ahead and do it because, hey, they're like litigious lesbians too here. You'll end up having your spawn. You'll end up having your spawn turned into a homo or a lesbo, and you'll end up having to pay for it, till they're 22 or something like that here. So, in any case, where was I here? In any case, that's pretty well what they are. And I asked them, what are you going to do about Granby? I've given up on Ben Baker, Christian scumbag, the Christian scumbag faction. T-Rampage, T-Rampage, Crooked Ira, Bell Chatrell, Gomer Goober, they're members of the Christian scumbag, faction of Newton County. I mean, they pretend to be Christians here, but they're actually just a bunch of thieving scumbags. So anyway, I'm asking, and I'm hoping that Jill Carter won't turn it, and she's already scared of a wild man like me here. You can tell, but hell, I had to, the reason I voted for her was that she wasn't Belle White, who's affiliated with the buying and selling of children, white children, in the 32nd district here. So, so-called kosher conservative, and probably a Christian scumbag as well here. Although I'm not sure what the hell he believes in, other than himself here, getting 4 more years as a state senator here. So anyway, I asked him, what are you going to do about Granby? What are you going to do about Granby? And the answer is, well, probably as little as possible here. Granby is just simply used for its boats. And we'll go ahead and see if we can't go ahead and get these people in debt. I mean, Crooked Ira, crooked, awful, evil, ass clown Ira Hawkins told me back when he was a council critter in the South Ward, I'm pretty well just letting the scumbaggery continue here. He told me all about his little scheme. He courted me in the Ramies in 2013 and told me all about his great plans to, and I can have, somebody's son go ahead. I mean, it's delusional. He believes that Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates are going to go ahead and build big mansions in Granby. We got to go ahead and bring in millionaires. No shit. They have all sorts of ideas of going ahead and bringing in new infrastructure, which essentially Jim Channel will just simply neglect, with the aid of Victorggins here. I mean, Victorggins, I knew what he was like when I was pointing out is that they could go ahead and spend a tenth, just for this office stuff for Fat Lon. And he just thought it was funny. Victorggins has absolutely no respect for taxpayer dollars. None. If he wants something here, he gets it right now. That's what they taught him at wastewater school. They didn't teach him turd wrangling. They taught him money grabbing. So where does that money come from? Well, it comes from taxpayers. And on the 23rd, they're going to have something. So what happens is that they go ahead and bring all sorts of pig-life scumbags. And Jacob is smart. Instead of taking $30,000, he agreed to $25,000. And he's not really worried about what he's paid over the table. He's getting more than enough under the table. So, I mean, I do have a liking for Jacob because though he is crooked here, he's actually smart. He's not any more brutal than what he has to be. But that, he did go ahead and force, these, domestic protection things brought by with Selby and Grid's Grinded Reggie Stremmel here. Folks, don't believe that you have, open, transparent government. You don't. I mean, Eric Shit. Well, hey, he wanted to go ahead and make it to where I couldn't go ahead and create another Sunshine Act violation because I was suing these crooked judges, which enabled this crooked shit. Stremmel, Stremmel, Selby, and this piece of shit named Charles Curlin from up there. I mean, just a total crooked bastard. I mean, Gary Troxler, who was a new one, he said, I hear they use profanity and he curses at you. I said, you heard right. You heard right. I mean, look, a critter like Curlis, what you do is you catch him, his entire family, you start skinning them out. And you let Curlis be last. Because I don't think he has any respect for even his own family here. Only for himself. Total evil piece of shit. Had 2.5 hours of yanking the tail on their bogus Municipal Ordinance 815. Essentially aimed against me. For making fun of the crooked mayor. You know what I mean? He was sort of crying here. He was scared. You know what I mean? You see, really how it's going to go. And let's just get back to the pigs here. What happens to the pigs? You know, they got to be worshipped. They got to be loved. What happened? Someone like Anthony Felix didn't love them. He knew exactly what pigs were like. And so he's going to go ahead and be arrested. He has a gun because maybe he wanted this sort of thing. Maybe it's somewhat suicidal. But, you know, I mean, my hat's off to you, Anthony Felix. You went ahead and weren't suicidal. You were pigicidal. You were pigicidal. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate you going ahead and killing them goddamn dirty, evil fucking pigs. You know, it's a pity, it's a pity the third one you shot didn't die, and you didn't shot more, but, you know, pretty well, in the heat of the moment, he was running out of bullets here, and it was time for him to be executed here. But, you know, no, that's what you end up having. I don't know why freaking idiots think that they have rights here. I've had my property, my heritage taken away from me by one Brian Real, crazed homosexual mongrel Zogbot. So, anyway, you go ahead and send some Zogbucks to Pastor Martin Lindstedt, you know, 338 Rap Track Road if you wish to go ahead and risk it being intercepted by the hippo. Or P.O. Box 666, Granby, Granby, Missouri, 64844. So, until later, hail Victorggins.